Okay, so I just bought this snowmobile. This was $6,300. I think I got a pretty good deal on this thing. It has, I think about 3,000 kilometers, so that's rather low for this machine. And I think this one will be the last snowmobile I ever have to buy. Now this thing will probably last a long time because I don't use things hard, and you know, all of our fields are what I'll be riding this thing in. So yeah, I can't believe I actually bought one of these. I've always thought, oh, these are only for really rich people, but I actually got one. But one thing I really need to do though is I need to put some these bolts with loops, and I need to put those there for bungee cords because maybe I could get because I can't really take my tripod anywhere. Maybe if I put a bungee cord in there, it'll be fine. But yeah, so I'm gonna go up. We'll go on those hills a bit there, and I already drove it around a bit up there to get used to it. We'll go on those hills and we'll make some videos, I guess. And I'm still really new at riding this, so I think I'll just be riding this a lot off camera because I never had one of these before. And this one is in really good shape. I like how small it is too. I like how skinny it is. It's, you know, the Bearcat is a completely different machine. You can see how much wider it is. So I can't believe I bought one of these. I've been dreaming about these for years. Oh, it is a 154. Okay, I thought it was a 140 something. So not a bad track, I guess. Yeah, so this thing should be super fun. I know someone keeps putting like stickers. They don't really like those, but oh well, ignore that. But yeah, let's take it out for the second ride. Okay, well, I didn't bring a shovel, but yeah, I got the tripod and now can have a bit of fun. Well, that was fun. Okay, so this here is the first time I lost control. I'm coming up to a snow jump, like a blowover, and I gave it too much throttle. I gave it too much throttle there, and then I stopped, and then I kind of, it doesn't really look like that much, but I kind of got slammed into the handlebars a little bit. I wasn't hurt bad or anything, but I'd lost control a little bit of it there. I thought I should just mention that. Okay, well that was fun, but now the low fuel light is on, so I can't keep riding. And this thing takes a certain type of fuel, so my mom is, I think she's gonna phone the fuel company and see what type we have in our big tanks. If it's the right type, then I can fill it up and keep riding. If not, I have to wait a couple days until we go to town, and then we'll get a few jerry cans of fuel for it. Yeah, I'm still getting used to this thing. This thing is very aggressive, so it'll take a while to get used to it. This thing wasn't at a fuel, it was just at an angle, so it's still got half a tank. So this thing here, let's see if we can get, I mean I did get up that already, but it's a little dangerous because it's kind of hard, but I know how to drive up here. I just didn't film it. Okay, so I got the tripod on here. So, you know, I can't do a bunch of tricks and stuff. I'll just try to drive smoothly home. That's not ideal, but I'll just go slow and just go over there. And let's ride around in some deeper powder over there, I guess. deeper than 3 feet, but it's a little bit hard, I think. Because the wind blew it. When the wind blows powder snow, it gets kind of hard. And that's how you get that thing stuck. This thing is, that's a bit steep and I wasn't going quite fast enough. Go. Yeah. first hill climb I've done with this thing. That's a hornet's nest right there. Looks like a coyote or something was carrying around a hornet's nest and then dropped it. That's weird. There's a moose trail right there. That's what that is. And the snow is really deep, but right now I don't know why, but it's kind of hard. So, I'm guessing there's like 4 feet of snow right here. But the snow just really hard, so it's not a lot of fun. But, I mean, this machine has only got like 3,000 kilometers on it, so I've heard that's rather low. So, I think this machine will last a long time. I think this is a good buy. I'm glad I bought this machine. And the snow's not the most fun. I don't have a lot of experience, but I just need to practice riding it a bit more. And this year is actually a swamp. It's a bunch of 4-foot swamp grass. And so sometimes what we do is we actually hay this, even though it's swamp grass. It's no good for cattle, don't like to eat it, but it makes good bedding bales. So then we can put it in a bale buster, bust it up in the springtime, and then the newborn calves are not only in snow, they have some hay to sleep on. And I will be filming some of the calving this year, because I'm sure there's lots of people curious of what kind of stuff we do on the farm. So I'm going to be filming some of our cattle farming. I know I don't usually film stuff like that, but I've been filming mainly just the stuff I do, like the projects and building projects. But yeah. And yeah, I bought the snowmobile for $6,300. And actually my grandpa was, I got the money from my grandpa for working on the farm. And so I actually had $5,000 and he put in the $3,000, or no, I had $5,000, he put in $300. And that's how I bought this thing. And yeah, I think this snowmobile is in really good shape. No, I don't really know anything about these. It's an E-Tech. I don't know if that's good or bad. I know that I saw a few videos on YouTube saying it would have more power. It's can too, that's why it's loud. But I think this is a good snowmobile. Now everything's straight there, nothing's weird on it. There's no damage. There's a little bit of cracked plastic there, but that's almost nothing. And one thing I can do is if I'm using this thing as a utility machine, I can put a little box on the back there too. That would be handy. I think this is a good machine. So now we can go back to the farm. And this is our land, and that fence line there, that's the neighbor's land. They actually don't really use that land. It's just a bush property. There's no cattle or anything. But yeah, and then this is our land, and then there's neighbors that way too. So I use the skidder to clear the snow here, because this is one of the first places that the snow melts in the springtime. And then eventually we pack down. There's a road that goes all the way up here. And then there's the calf shelter and then the cows with calves, they end up here. So we get them, so I'll make videos of it, obviously, but how it works is the cows have their calves there, and then when they're wet, or sometimes they dry off, before they get a bunch of energy and run around, we catch them. You have to stay away from the cows. Sometimes they get angry and they try to charge you. And my late uncle, actually, I saw him get charged once, but that's not the reason he died. He had cancer. No, I think almost everyone at this farm has been rammed by a cow at least once, but I haven't. I've been lucky, because even my mother was rammed by a cow once behind the barn. So cows are dangerous. That's another reason we're shrinking this farm, because and we're switching over the grassers. So, and lack of staff too. Like, one of my uncles died, and his brother's getting older. My other uncle, he's getting older. He's in his 60s. My mom is actually in her 60s, but she's still in really good health. So that leaves my mom, me, and my uncle. We're kind of running the whole farm right now, and I'm only 16. So eventually we're going to hire some helpers here, and then my dad will help. My dad helps sometimes, and he's actually in Mexico. He's getting some dental work done, because it's cheaper in Mexico. So he went there, took a plane there. Also, my dad is an artist. I think he has an Instagram. I think it's called laughinghand.com, something like that. You can search it up. I'm not exactly sure. I should know that, but I don't really pay attention to it much. He sells art. His art's pretty good. Yeah. So he's more famous than me, but he's not a big-time celebrity. But he's getting there. Believe it or not, he's in his 70s, but he's in really good health for being 70. He's starting to get kind of older. I don't want to push him too much. But yeah. Eventually we'll hire a helper, but how the calving works is the cows will have newborn calves. We'll bring the quad and trailer down there, put them in the trailer, take them up to the barn, sometimes even in the middle of the night if we have to. Because as soon as we notice them, you should bring them into the barn and tag them and give them the needles. And then once they're in the barn, after about 5 days, we keep an eye on them, make sure none of them are sick with scours. And then if they look good, we'll actually herd them through the yard. We open the gates, and the cows, some of the older cows know where to go. They know to come here. They weren't trained, they just do that automatically. They kind of know the routine. And then over time, they teach the younger cows. And that's been happening for years. So then we herd them through the yard, and they kind of automatically walk through the yard down up into this pasture on their own. It's kind of a genius system. And then once they're up here, there's a barn down there that they can go in. There's a calf shelter, and they hang around there. And I will drive over there and film that. And then these calf shelters are for the calves can hang out in there if they get cold, or if it's raining or it's snowing or something. And then we don't let the cows in there, because that's a problem. Then all the cows would try to go in there and they just rip the building apart. But yeah, so we put a board so only the calves can get in. And then, the hills, they start to melt fast. So I cleared the snow off of here with the skidder. I should probably do that again with the tractor. Maybe, maybe not, but see, there's only I think there's only about a foot of snow up here, which is a good thing, because then once the snow melts, if we can get a tractor up here, spread straw around, and then the calves have bedding to lay down on. And we spread straw around down by those buildings. So let's go look at those. The year is almost over, but we got a whole bunch of snow all at once. And So now I have a good machine. We just don't have that good of snow. But this machine will be here probably for maybe 20 years sometimes. I'm not sure how long these last, but this machine should last a long time. No, because I'm not taking it up in the mountains. I'm not hitting trees with it. I'm gonna try to take it easy with this thing. But I'm glad I bought this. I like how narrow everything is. It's not like the Bearcat. This thing is meant for deep snow. I mean, I got it stuck a few times. That's probably operator error. That's not the fault of the snowmobile. That's the fault of the snow, actually. The snow and operator error, I guess. But if you avoid that, then this thing is a lot of fun. And sometimes, I don't know what's going on with that pull starter. Something's off with it. See how it's a little slow? And actually right here, there's a water hole. That's what we're on. There's a little pond here. Like we have our own kind of mountains up there. So the snow fills the water holes in springtime, and so in the summertime, the cattle drink from water holes and fountains sometimes. But mainly they're out in pastures. No, they find there's all sorts of ponds in the bush. So yeah. I say this is a pretty good cattle farm. I mean, there's a lot of ponds. There's a pond here. There's probably, on all the land we own, I'd say there's probably about 16 different ponds. So there's lots of places for them to drink. And we have cattle fountains, too. And then that's a boneyard there. That's where the old machines go and they don't get fixed and they're not. It's basically a garbage pile for machines. So let's go check that out. So here's the what we call a boneyard. I don't know why they call it that. But there's an old. That's our old diesel tank. We have a tank like that for gas, and 2 diesel, one for summer diesel and one for winter diesel. Those are 2 different things. And then this here is an old Coxswain tractor. I think that might even be the first tractor they got here. 40 years ago, or about the actual age of the farm. The actual amount of time we've been here is 47 years, I think. And they actually drove this all the way from Alberta. I cannot believe that. They drove this tractor. It took like probably a week, 2 weeks of driving a tractor on the highway. You know, the tractors aren't fast. They drove that thing, I think they drove it here all the way from Alberta. That's amazing. And there's some other old stuff over there. And this here is our hay rake. We use that every year, even though it's pretty old. And that there's our old dump truck. And when they first moved here, they used silage. And I don't exactly know how to explain that. There's other videos on YouTube explaining what silage is, I'm sure. But what they do is they mow the grass. They don't let it dry, so they mow it, and then the same day or I think they have this thing called a silage chopper. It's down there. So they mow it, and the chopper chops it up and then puts it in the dump truck. And then the dump trucks dump it in the silage pit over there. And that was before they did, I think that might be before they did square bales. Square bales have been around a long time. But, yeah. And then some swathers, those are for. They're for swathing. They cut hay, they cut grain. Cut the grain, and then you pick it up with another machine. This one's for parts. We have another one that's supposed to run, but we don't use it. It's up there. And then this here is an old auger. A long time ago, we combine grain. We have a combine, but it's rusted out. It's in pretty bad shape. Might never use that again. It's getting old. They had a combine that we plant a field of grain, combine the grain, and then we use how does it work again? I think they put the grain, and maybe they put the grain in the dump trucks. I don't know exactly how it worked. They combine the grain, they put it in dump trucks, and then I think they use these augers. I don't know exactly how they did it, but they used the auger to load those buildings to the roof with grain. Those are grain sheds, so that they just fill them up with grain. And then there's a feeding system on that building where a trough comes out and you have a door. And then the grain will flow out a bit, and that's how they fed the cattle grain. And if you feed cattle too much grain, they will bloat and die because I don't know how that works, but cattle can't have too much grain or they will die from it. And there's a lot of machines here you can't see because the snow is so deep, but there's another junk auger. Both of these are scrap metal. They're both, they're both totaled, I think, because the main part of the auger is bent, so they're both scrap metal. Or I can save some of the parts of the frame that's useful for building stuff. There's a good axle on there, too. There's some old harrows, and we actually have a big collection of our own culverts, too, for building roads. And then that machine there, the grain hammer, that actually isn't ours. It belongs to the Reed Lake community. So it's kind of like a rented thing. I don't know exactly how that works, but we live in the Reed Lake community on the end of McCabe Road there. So that technically belongs to it's like I said, it's like a rental thing. I don't know how it works, but I think that's meant for, it's meant for hammering or grinding grain. And then when the grain is ground, it's easier for the cattle to digest it, and they digest it better. We also have our own grain grinder. It's over there somewhere, behind that big barn. And yeah, there's a chicken house on the end, and that horse barn there. That's the name they gave it. They just call it a horse barn. It was intended for horses, but it's old, so now it's used for the calves. We board it off so the cows don't go in there, because the cows can take the weather, but the young calves are vulnerable, so they need a shelter. So they go in that barn all the time, and then there's a calf shelter there, and then that building there, like that, the horse barn and that one, the tack room, they're both sinking down because they're like the bottom of them slowly rots. So I think they're savable. The horse barn, we don't need to save it. It's being used the way it is. But the other building, if we could lift it up and save it, then we could really use it, because it's like a really big shed for storing stuff. And there's a lot of antiques in there too. Like some really old shoemaking tools and stuff like that. And then there's an old outhouse. My uncle rebuilt that, I think, 4 years ago. It was falling over. The whole thing was crooked, and then he picked it up with the tractor, straightened the bottom, straightened everything, and remade it all, and now it's usable. So if we have guests over, we can have like a party, like at my birthday party or something. We have a whole bunch of people come over, and they use that antique outhouse. It needs a new roof. We rebuilt everything else, but then we didn't rebuild the roof. So it needs a metal roof. That's not hard to do. In fact, I should probably do that next year. But yeah, it's an antique outhouse. No, I'm sure it's like 90 years old. And in fact, the people that made this farm, that might have been their main outhouse, because that was before plumbing. So who knows how old that thing is? That thing could be 90 years old. So I think it's a good thing we rebuilt it, even if we never use it, because it's an antique. And we have a few other buildings that we'd like to save, but it might not be worth saving them, because they need a lot of work to fix them up. And also, I think we should build a few more sheds. We could use some more storage. In fact, I think today there's a contractor coming out to look at our hay shed. I should write up there and talk about that. Because our hay shed, it was a pole barn. There's poles and then a roof. But there was lean-tos that were supposed to be made, but they were never made when that hay shed was new. They never finished building it. So the contractor's coming out to finish building it, or he's going to come look at the job. So let's go take a look at that. There's the horse barn. The calves still use that. Slowly sinking a bit, but not too much of a problem. And you can see the outhouse is still leaning back a bit, but it was way worse. It was like tipping over. So, that fence needs to be fixed there. But so what we did is we lifted it up, and my uncle rebuilt all the bottom part, put a new floor in it, and put a door on it. I think it didn't even have a door. So I don't know what happened. The door probably fell off, or it fell apart. Someone probably got rid of it. But yeah, it needs a bit more work, and it would be a usable outhouse. And yeah. And then there's what we call the tack room, that bigger building there. We use that for storing stuff. We should probably use it for storing a bit more. We don't actually put that much stuff in it. It's just a abandoned antique building. It's sinking too. It's kind of sinking into the ground. It doesn't have a foundation because I think they just used rocks in the old days to put on the corners of buildings. They never built them properly. And then that barn, I made a video with a bear cat. You kind of got to see that one. So now let's drive up to the hay shed. Let's talk about that. This building obviously is not worth fixing. You know, the roof, everything's falling apart on it, but the bottom part here, we still use it. It's a root house. We still store a lot of vegetables in there, and I do kind of want to go in there and film that, but I don't want to take the barricade off because it has to be insulated. And so we still store a lot of, in fact, we should almost be armed with weapons, because if the economy goes bad and people in the cities can't get food, they might start coming out here and robbing us. So it's almost like we should get like weapons or something. But whoever's watching this video, don't rob us. We do have rifles. And yeah. So we store all of our vegetables in here. Like we don't grow everything here, but we grow beets, potatoes, carrots, what's the white type of carrot called? Rutabaga. We grow that. We grow radishes. I think we grow radishes. And turnips, maybe? And cabbages. We grow cabbages. And lettuce. We don't grow a lot of lettuce. The lettuce is really small. There's probably other stuff I'm not thinking of, but yeah. We grow fennel. Also kale. We grow kale too. Yeah. Now, this building's kind of just a sculpture. You know, it's falling down. Everything's cracked, and yeah. If I get a chance, I'll make a video on this going inside here. So that's a pretty old building. And you can see my uncle's up at the hay shed there. So let's go take a look at that. And I hope I don't get stuck right there. Here are some of our grasses that we bought. The ones over there are the ones that grew up here. And then we graze them over the summer. They get fatter, and then we sell them for a higher price. So here's the hay shed, and then there's supposed to be lean-tos on this side. And there's another kind of a boneyard here. There's my uncle's old camper. And this washer is the one that's supposed to work. But I couldn't get it going. I tried. And then those two trailers, those are what we use for hauling hay. I'll make a video on those. Those are actually a really good system. I think it's really well designed. And yeah, and then there's a backhoe that's for fixing water lines, or digging, or putting in water lines we use. And this calf shelter, the frame on it, it's all wood. The wooden frame on it is kind of bad. And these buildings are portable, they don't have foundations. And then there's a square baler there. And I think this year we'll have to make some square bales. We make round bales for the cattle and to sell them if we have extra. This year was a really good year. We have a whole bunch of extra, but everyone else had hay, so no one bought any. No one wanted. Like last year, we sold 2 semi-loads, B trains of hay. That's a lot of hay. They made money that year. That was last year. So yeah, you can see these are supposed to be lean-tos here, but the contractor is going to come look at them. I'm guessing they're probably going to have to maybe re-put those in because they're crooked. And then there's supposed to be some on the other side, but I don't even think they were finished putting them in. So yeah, you know, if these are finished, then we'd have a lot more room to put hay in there, and also we could use them as vehicle storage. So it might be very expensive to have a contractor build these, but I think it is very well worth it. It was supposed to be done years ago, and people were too picky about money. They didn't want to spend the money to do it, and it was just a bunch of BS. They should have finished it, because now they're probably going to pay, you know, it's almost like starting it over again, because everything on this side was done, and now it's all warped. I think this thing was built in the late 80s, almost 90s. I saw some pictures of it when it was a lot newer, and those things were perfectly straight, and they looked fresh. And then there's an old silage pit that someone made out of wood. We don't use that, though. And we stack hay here. If we have extra hay, you know, every year we usually have a few stacks of hay, and we put plastic on it. And luckily my aunt works at the tree nursery, and so they have greenhouse plastic that's used, and so they get it for cheaper than new, but it's still perfect. You know, there aren't any holes in it. So, and then we use that to cover the hay outside, and then every year when we get the annoying part is when you pick up the bales, usually the plastic just breaks off and you can't use it again. So I think that's kind of a dumb system. But if we finish his hay shed, we can use those lean-tos for literally whatever we want. We can park the combine in there, or other machines, like all the hay machines can get put in there. And, you know, actually there are metal walls. There are, it's like roofing, but they're walls, and that's what are for the sides. So, yeah. And also we could put hay in there, and then we get all of our hay in that one shed, and we wouldn't have to put any stacks outside on the, out here, we wouldn't have to stack anything. So I guess that kind of wraps up the first video of riding the snowmobile. I'm glad I bought this. I think this is a pretty good machine, and I have my camera. My iPhone 11 right now is actually on my helmet. So I've been recording this whole video with the iPhone 11. This thing I built that for my tripod. Put a couple of bolts in, and this foam part comes out, and the heads of the bolts are underneath it, so my head's not rubbing on it. So yeah, this helmet isn't super safe, but it's better than nothing. You know, in all of my life, I've never hit my head falling off of a machine. I know how to drive. I've been driving quads and dirt bikes for probably more than 10 years, and No, I've seen a lot of people, they really go crazy with quads and motorcycles. They try to impress themselves hard, and they're hard on the machine. They're doing stuff that's a lot more dangerous, and I'm not like that. I don't enjoy taking risk. I try to avoid it. So, lots of people really like to have as much fun as they possibly can, but I've always been cautious with machines. So I know this helmet isn't super safe, but I've never hit my head falling off of a quad or snowmobile or motorcycle. Not once. And I've fallen off my motorcycle, not too many times, but I've never gotten injured doing it because I'm a rather cautious rider. And yeah, so this is a great system. I'm glad I couldn't find that stupid GoPro, but now I can just put the iPhone in there, and this phone has a case on it, obviously, and then you put it in there, and, I tried to wiggle it, a little scared that it'd fall out. It wouldn't move at all. You'd have to pull it out of there to get it out. So, I just make sure I don't run into a tree or something, or, I don't put I have to tilt my head down, so. But yeah, I think this is a great system. Now the camera's off to the side a little bit because it's on the slant side it's on the top of the phone there. But I think this is a great system now. I had a GoPro mount on there. So I'm glad I can, I'm doing everything, all the editing and everything on this phone. This phone is everything. It's the camera, it's the editing, and it's for posting. And I actually watch my YouTube videos on this phone now because my computer quit, so I need to buy another laptop. I had a MacBook Air. I think I'm gonna upgrade and get my MacBook Air was a 2014. I need to upgrade to a MacBook Pro. My mom has been buying MacBook Pros for 16 years, and they still have a 2005 or 6 laptop that my dad still uses to this day. No, he uses it for his art, I think. He uses it for some other stuff. He doesn't use internet on it, but he still uses a MacBook Pro, I think it is. It's a 2005. It's a pretty old computer. And, yeah. And then and then after that computer, my mom got a 2014 MacBook Pro. After that, the screen went bad on that one, so can't use that. And then now she has a 2019 MacBook Pro, and I don't recommend new MacBooks. Always get I think I've heard the really good computers are from 2014 to about 2017. They made some good computers, and I'm gonna buy an older one. I want to get maybe a 2016 MacBook Pro, because they have all the plugins on them on the sides, and that's what I need. And I have a monitor I want to use. It's a TV, an old TV. I can plug in it. It takes a Thunderbolt. So I think my next purchase, I'm tight on money after buying this. I bought a quad this year too. So I feel really rich. I never thought as a kid, I did not see myself buying a mountain snowmobile like this, and I actually have one. Amazing. And it's not bad. I like it. This is a good machine for around here. So yeah, I'll make a video on buying a computer when I get one. But for right now, this phone is it's like Smeagol and the Ring from Lord of the Rings. I need this phone. This is very important. I don't actually have let's just call it a camera device, because I don't actually have a SIM card on this, so I don't use it for making calls, because you don't really get much service here anyway. We're way out in the country. But sometimes, I probably should, but I don't want to pay the extra money just to have this thing as an actual phone. So yeah, I guess I just never stopped talking in this video. So I talked about some of the buildings on this farm. I will be making more videos on all the calving that happens. Maybe we'll even catch a cow calving while the calf is actually coming out of the cow. I've made 1 or 2 videos of that. You don't usually see that happen. You might film that, so yeah. then people can see how calves are actually born. So I'll be making, it's, I don't know, I forgot what month it is, but yeah. It's getting rather late in the year, and we actually had our first calf of the year, I think 2 days ago, and that calf was quite cold, so my uncle actually just put it in the house, at the front door, and we have a bench we put across so that the calf doesn't walk around in the house. And we gave it a few bottles of colostrum, and it's up and at 'em, and we're just watching it. The mother is a heifer. The heifer means a cow that's never had a calf before, basically a virgin. So it's her first calf this year, and that calf is, I think that we thought maybe it would die, but I think it'll survive and it'll be fine. So that wraps up my first good snowmobile video. I will put some clips from a few days ago as well. So this will be kind of a long video, but I think some people would like to watch this. And in years later, I can come back and watch this video as well, because it'll always be on my channel. So that wraps up buying a Skidoo Summit E-Tech 800R. So 154 track. I think that's a good size of track. And I like this machine. It's got reverse. It's great. And that wraps up this video.